spiritual faith
grows where you are, it exists where you are.
an intentional journey to open up the pathways
To connect us to something bigger. It helps everybody in the equation.
has been the magic of the people, and it's passed from person to person.
You have to follow through. You have to do the thing. Like happy, safe place.
Is that your logic, or was that something you were told?
Focus on your craft and your practice. Just ask me why. Why in general?
Can you unteach yourself something that society has taught you?
Mystical experiences will always be different.
Your body is your temple.
You've probably been doing certain things your whole life.
You need nothing else other than what you're in right now.
This is Georgina. This is Nike.
And this is Temperance.
And welcome to Occultism with a Side of Salt.
Hello, this is Georgina.
This is Nike.
This is Temperance.
And I'm Devin.
Devin is our special guest. Devin, would you like to plug yourself in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, you can check me out at modernwitch.com. I'm an author, podcaster, been around for a while. And you can just find me at modernwitch.com. All the things.
Yay.
And welcome to Occultism with a Side of Salt. In this episode, we're going to be discussing twin flames. So if you've been in any spiritual space that's not necessarily witchcraft or occult, you've probably heard the idea of twin flames. Even if you've been like scrolling through the New Age bookshelves at your local Barnes & Noble, you've probably seen books about this. You've probably seen like articles about it. And if you're someone who reads tarot in particular, you've probably had someone come up to you and ask, is this person my twin flame? Will I be with them? So we wanted to explain what twin flames are and how they can go wrong. So the concept of twin flames sounds very innocuous, and really it has a pretty long history, but it's sort of transformed into something that has a bit of a negative undertone to it and has a lot of toxic elements. Once again, we're not trying to demonize people who are into it, nor are we saying it's not real or not valid or anything like that, but we do want to put some nuance to the subject because it's a little more complicated than people make it out to be, and it's a little less there's a lot of misconceptions. So we're going to be exploring how it connects to spiritual bypassing, soulmates versus the twin flames, how the idea of twin flames can keep people blind to things like abuse or bad situations, twin flame readings, and basically everything twin flame related and adjacent. So let's break into it.
I actually don't have a hot take today. Does anyone else have a hot take on this topic?
I mean,
Twin flames are bullshit. How about that?
Thank you.
there we go.
Start there.
Devin, breaking
I
the
think we all
ice
agree.
on that one.
So why do you think twin flames are bullshit? Someone answer it.
No, Devin has to answer it first. He gave the take.
Yeah.
I think, well, okay. So in my experience, every time it's come up, it has been part of a very manipulative storyline that tends to keep people in abusive, unstable relationships. And so most, like if I had somebody come to me for a twin flame reading, or if they, any of that kind of stuff, it always got down to this strange codependency, this issue with not trusting yourself to make your own choices and your own decisions. And there's also this romance to it that I think the idea has been romanticized that everyone has a person and you're going to find this person and, there's going to be this romantic thing that happens. And that's just not reality. And if it was reality, then witches wouldn't need to be doing love spells and shit all the time. So, it's one of these things that I think love is so complicated that we want to have divine awareness of its constitution in our life, and I think that that's valuable and worthy. But I think sometimes when we're searching for that, we tend to categorize ourselves in ways that are diminutive, and I think that this is one of those instances. So I anytime this comes up, like the hair on the back of my neck stands up, like predators breathing behind me, like it's a whole thing, because I'm like, no, honey, run. It's always a problem. I've never met one person in all my days who subscribed to this concept that I felt was somebody who I wanted to look up to. And I have a lot of heroes. So, this is one of those things that I tend to look at the people just in general who have stable relationships, have stable whatever, things that I strive, to have myself. Those are the people I'm looking at. None of them are using this twin flame lingo.
So, anytime I've seen it, it's usually like this person verbally abuses me, our relationship is so toxic, we've broken up 17 times, or, if they're friends and they say they're twin flames, which is rare, it's usually romantic, but like, we fight all the time, it's always awful, but we always come back together because we're twin flames and we have this divine connection, we have to be together. It's like this, we have no choice, we have no free will, I have to be with this person. Like, they'll literally say that they verbally abuse them, but they have to be together because twin flames, and it just excuses really awful dynamics up like through actual abuse for no reason, like this desire to feel needed and special to somebody. And I think it ultimately comes down to not feeling complete on your own.
Yeah, there's something I want to read. So I pulled up 11 signs. I'm not going to read the text. I'm going to read the signs, and I think this alone illuminates like the issues. So this is from mindbodygreen.com. I'm just going to read the 11 things, and then we'll discuss it. I'm not reading the paragraphs, but this alone, like, for people who aren't familiar with the concept, this basically sums up the pop mainstream idea of it. 1, when you met, there was instant recognition. 2, you're very similar. 3, you complement each other, like complementary. 4, your insecurities and doubts are amplified. 5, they feel magnetic. 6, the relationship is tumultuous. 7, the relationship is very intense. 8, you keep coming back together. 9, the connection feels divine. 10, you have an almost psychic connection. 11, they push you.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. This describes me and Devin because he hasn't texted me in months and it hurt my feelings. So, and then now we've come back together for this recording. So it's
this is Robin twin flame slander. What happened to Robin being your twin flame? Okay, are you cheating on her with Devin?
No, I'm
polyamorous, so
Yeah.
we're actually more like a quadruplet flame, I guess, or
Well, I'm confused.
I can just be added to Devin's harem. Like I can be added to the Devin harem, and I know I don't carry the right parts, but I could definitely show up with like things to have the right parts.
There are so many ways to love and cherish somebody. Not all of them have to be sexual. And you have free reign to have sex with whoever you want to have sex with, Temperance. That is not a problem. I am just here to love you and support you and to lift you up so that you can do what you want in this lifetime. That's it. That's all a partner should do. Here to, you get each other's backs, lift each other up. That's what it's about.
But I really want to bring it back to point 5 or 6 on that list. Can you bring it back?
Is that the tumultuous?
No, that is.
I was here for like the first 3, and then after 3, it was like, meh.
Yeah, straight down.
Yeah, no. Number 4, your insecurities and doubts are amplified. So if your partner is making you feel insecure and you're having tons of doubts, and that insecurity is made worse by being around this person, that's actually a really bad trait. That's not a sign that you should spend more time with this person. That's literally your spirit, your subconscious, like your because we're spiritual people, we're all practicing occultists, in which you're not just a physical body, you're not just a brain. There is a spirit under that has more knowing than you consciously do, and you're being given a message very clearly that you're obviously ignoring. It's a bad sign.
Yeah, it's not a sign that you're twin flames. It's a sign that you have communication issues.
Well, like, I was with a partner who made me feel insecure all the time, and it's stuff I'm still working through, like, 5 years later. And it's very common with abuse, even like just generally toxic, if you wouldn't consider it abuse, like toxic relationships. If they nitpick your body and make you feel insecure, if they tell you that you're annoying, if they like pick personality traits that you're already a little sensitive about to rag on for no reason, like, your partner's not meant to make you insecure. My current partner never says any of that stuff to me, and I feel a greater connection to anybody who's not nitpicking my body and personality at every chance that they get. I feel so much more connected to somebody who's not doing that versus the person who's going to bring me down and be like, you look a little fat today.
Also, I don't like your relationship is tumultuous and then you keep coming back together because, like, obviously
that's the cycle of abuse.
Is going to have fights. There's going to be ups and downs. That's just the reality of, like, people, right? We're not always having our best days. We have our lows. But if your relationship is constantly fighting with nothing else, that's not a good sign.
If your relationship is consistently on again, off again, not in a joking way, if your relationship is that you come together really hard, really fast for a little while, and then you like rip apart like magnets, then you come back together, that's really unhealthy. One or more partners probably have commitment issues. They might have abandonment issues. There might be some deeper stuff going on there. related to trauma. It's really things that need to see more professional help, and probably just you probably aren't the right match, period.
On the
Well-
note about it needing professional help, sorry, just real fast. There are some mental illnesses. I will out myself a little bit. I slipped into toxic dynamics for a long time, longer than I should have, longer than I wanted to, because certain mental illnesses thrive on adrenaline. Like ADHD, adrenaline is a great motivator if you don't have the proper neurochemicals, and abuse and toxicity is a great adrenaline starter. So people who have a tendency to go towards like being an adrenaline junkie, sometimes you stick to that. Like, it's not a knock. Obviously, I have ADHD, I have mental illness. Sometimes it's because you're mentally ill and that's why you're drawn to it, not because you're twin flames. Just saying.
Yeah. And when I was a young gay, one of my first relationships was with a person who I thought very much was a twin flame situation. We were he's a Gemini, I was a Sagittarius. It was very hot, lots of good hot sex. The problem was that we, even to this day, we're just so fucking toxic for each other. So like this is before I did my growing, and I've done, the things I would equate to me having a good, stable 12-year relationship at this point. All those things took time. And I look at the person I was in that relationship, and it was super manipulative. Because he was lying to me. And so but I thought I needed him. So what do? You lie back, and it becomes this thing, right? But we were twin flames. And so this idea that I needed him in order to survive the unknown things, that the drama that was created by our relationship was worth the fear, or that solace that you get through the fear of what comes next in life. And in reality, so years later, I end up in a good, awesome, stable relationship, and we weren't fighting. And my parent, I was raised by two Capricorns, so there was always screaming and yelling. There was always stuff going on. And I just thought that's what you did. And so I'm in this relationship, and I'm like, you know what? We don't actually raise our voices at each other, ever. And if we do, it's really big stuff. It's a problem. And then we sit down and talk about it, and we apologize for raising our voices. It was just very different. And I thought that part of being in a hot, heated, sexy, passionate relationship was yelling and screaming, and was all of those things. And that I needed that in order to feel, that good juju from my twin flame or whatever. And that just so is not the case. I've done way more in life by not having that drama to suck my time and energy away than I have, before that. So, I think we get into this thing where life is scary. We want a partner to help us get through the scary stuff. It helps make everything easier, at least mentally. But if your partner isn't actually making it easier, then it's not a good thing. And it's one thing to say oh, my partner and I are committed to each other. Something horrible happened to them. I have to take care of them. That's being a partner. That's different than my partner and I are constantly always fighting. We have a tumultuous relationship. Tumultuous is what they use in tabloids when people are fucking around on each other. That's what that is. It's not a good word to have next to your, So I don't know. It's a thing for me. This is a thing for me.
I think that I really think that the reason why so many people, when they come into the witchcraft, new age, occult spheres, they get sucked into this concept of twin flames. This is my personal opinion. I'm not saying this is a researched opinion. It's my personal opinion that a lot of this actually has to do with younger new agers, younger occultists, has a lot to do with the pop portrayal of soulmates, right? And because from a very, very young age in media, for at least the past 100 years, we have these fairy tales, and these fairy tales tell us that you will meet this one perfect person that will save you and that will rescue you and that will love you and that will cherish you. And so we get ingrained through fiction from a very, very young age. We get kind of coded to this belief, whether we recognize it or not, that there's this one perfect person for us. And that stays in the back of our mind because it's taught to us from such an impressionable age. And as we grow up, as we come here, we put all of our eggs into one basket, and we don't realize that we need multiple people to fulfill different needs within ourselves. It's not just one person, and that's not even a polyamory comment. It's just that one person could never fulfill all the needs you have. So you may have a romantic need, and you may have a platonic need, and those needs need to be met by two different people. If you're trying to shove one person into those 2 needs or 3 needs or however many you have, if you're trying to take all of your needs and shove them into the same basket, that person's going to get so stressed out, so overwhelmed. They're going to feel like they can't provide you what you need. It's going to create this toxic dynamic, and you're going to rip apart, like we see happen so much here. I think it's as much of a culture issue than it is a twin flames issue, to be honest, in my opinion.
Well, you should have, like, even if you're not poly or whatever, because I'm very strictly monogamous. You need to have friends. You need to have people around you. Because you're going to have, like, certain people are good at certain things. Certain people relate to you in certain ways. And I think a lot of this twin flame stuff argues, like, friends are never put into this equation, you know? You never see discussions of family, of community, right? It's like, it's these people who are really obsessed with the twin flame thing. They're obsessed with the love person, and they ignore their family, their life, like, everyone else in their life, because those people are still part of your, like, you know, your family in a sense, and your community. And that stuff's really important. So I think, like, twin flames, I don't know, I think there's a lot of codependency stuff going on.
Well, and to like go back just like one point about its representation in the scene and in pop culture, there was an author who came out with a boatload of books and a boatload of oracle decks and tarot decks, who was very centered around angels. Fuck it, I'll just say it, Doreen Virtue.
Just name her.
I'll just name her. Doreen Virtue came out, and so I've been working in an occult shop since I was 16 years old, pretty much, in one way or another. So I have been selling tarot decks and oracle decks for a really long time. And, you know, you see the trends, you see what comes out, and, you know, all the stuff over the years. And Doreen Virtue was huge. She was very, very huge for about 10 years. And she did a lot of what my partner refers to as selling husbands to lonely women. And so this was his whole theory on it. So actually we stopped Karen. We started to like really decrease her stock because we didn't like her ethical stance on things, actually, because of this particular topic, actually. So she's really good. Like if you get a deck of hers, you'd like she has twin flame decks. She's got, I mean, all of this shit, right? So basically what her market was divorcees of a certain age. And it was very much, you know, work with Archangel Michael, Gabriel. My favorite one was how Raphael is like hair conditioner and he'll untangle things in your life. That was how she described the Archangel Raphael, which was hilarious to me. Anyway, so, you know,
I like that take. I'm not going to lie.
No, why not? Right. But so, you know, but this was like she was really very light, very hands-on. This is the person who took the tower card out of the tarot deck. Like she was just very into things being comfortable. And so her entire market was really, when the twin flame stuff was coming out, it wasn't towards the 18 to 26-year-old demographic. It was towards the 40 to 55-year-old demographic. And those were the people who, they were lonely. I mean, their husband just left them. And we, in our country, like at one point, like at least when I was in high school, I think the divorce rate was like 50%, like in our country, if not higher at the time. So like, I mean, come on. So there was a market built in of lonely women who had been left by their douchebag husbands, and they've got to raise kids, and they're wondering, am I ever going to be loved again? Am I ever going to have this thing again? So I think that the trouble with twin flames isn't so much about it's like getting introduced like before you go through all the love stuff. The real trouble for me is what happens when you get introduced to it after you go through all your horrible love stuff, and then you use that to project like just absolute bullshit onto your experience, and then you end up, as we've talked about, making excuses for your abuser, you know. And this is just the cycle that happens over and over and over again, because you want to be hugged at night, because you want these things. There's nothing wrong with that, but we talk about relationships being, you know, your partner should be complementary to you. It doesn't matter if you've got one or you've got 16 partners. Your partner should be complementary to you. What does that look like in the context of a twin flame? Like if we're really going to get into it, then that person should be fueling you. They should be like propelling you forward, but not out of their own words, not out of their own choices in the direction for what they would want for you, but out of what you want for yourself. Right. And they show up and they provide that platform for you to jump. And hopefully, if you're a good partner, in my opinion, you'll do the same thing for them. And so it's this like thing of like, it's not about like building a partnership. This is about having somebody to be your protector and to be your comforter. And like, that's the underlining, to me, this is what I see as the underlining thing over and over and over again, is people aren't comfortable with themselves. And when you're not comfortable with yourself, you're not comfortable with being alone, because there's nobody there to, reflect on and reflect your own behavior back to. And so we end up in this, like, this whole love is it can be a really beautiful thing. It can also be a really, really bad thing. And I think that that's important. Like the feelings you have for your abusive lover or your abusive ex-husband or whatever, like, though, that love is not any less beautiful and pure than the love you have for your parents who treated you like gold. Like, it's still beautiful. It's still this great thing that you have to give to the world. It's just not being appreciated. It's being twisted and abused in these certain ways. So I think the twin flame thing just really emphasizes that, like, you got to have somebody that you are not complete unto yourself. And I just think that's bullshit. Like, we are all born totally complete. You're not a pizza. Somebody can't just love a piece of you and leave the rest behind. Like, this isn't how this works, So this stuff really, this gets to me, this gets to the heart of so many issues that we have as just humans, with wanting to be accepted, wanting to be loved. Like, the idea of a twin flame is you'll always be accepted by this person. They're always going to, understand you're crazy. And maybe they're just making excuses for your shitty behavior.
Well, and Temp, you made a point about, like, getting your perfect person, and, like, this whole thing. It just makes me, maybe this is my Capricorn moon. Who knows? We'll see. But, like, I had some shit relationships in the past. I went through the ringer in my own way, and I feel that a lot of people, like Devin was saying, they're looking for this other thing to fill them in and make them feel whole and complete. And I sort of made this conscious choice. I went sort of the opposite direction of twin flames. I went from, like, find your other half, because I have a romantic side, but I just sort of went the opposite way and was like, no, that perfect person for me is me. I am everything that I need. At the end of the day, I am my rock. I am my stability. I will rely on myself, and I'm here for me, and I don't need another person to do that. Now, I have a partner. I love him very dearly, and he makes me feel very good, but I don't need him. And that's a point that we both established together, that was like, we do not need each other. We can live, we can survive, we can thrive without the other person. We are here by choice, and we can leave by choice. This is not a life or death thing. I am here because I want to be.
Saying this. Yes, I'm so glad you're saying this. Whereas when I first got with my guys, they've been together for like 12 years before I came along, or longer, and then they got married, and then I met them on their honeymoon, actually. And so when we got together and things were getting really serious, we had this discussion of, like, if we're, like, in a bank and it gets robbed, don't jump in front of the bullet for me. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I? I love you. I got your back. I got your... And I had this moment of, like, oh shit, like, that's a thing right there. Like, that's really powerful statement. Don't risk your life for me. I love you too much for that. And I wouldn't want you to go through those things. Whereas the other relationships I had been in was like, I'd fucking take a bullet for you. I will run in front of that car for you. That's how crazy in love I am with you. So that discussion just, like, was beautiful putty on my soul. Like, it fixed the holy shit. Okay, you don't want me to kill myself for you. Oh, that's love, right?
God, I hope not. I want you to be alive so I can actually enjoy your company and your presence.
The real way
cool.
is if you can somehow see the bullet enough to jump in front of it, pull them out of the way.
Yes. Take them with you. Yes. Okay, that's exactly how I view it too. Like, when me and my partner got together, like, I had spent about 1.5 years single. I was feeling pretty good, but I was still working through some things, and he was relatively fresh out of a relationship, and it wasn't like, I will fix you, and it was more like, we're gonna lift each other up. I will bring you up to my level. I will get you out of the pit, not to, like, save you, but I'm gonna show you that the world exists outside of the pit, and I'll toss a ladder down to you if you need it, and you can climb out yourself. But, I'm not going to jump in the pit with you to then hoist you out and leave myself in there. It's I'm going to raise you up with me, but you're going to raise yourself up by your own power. You're not relying on me. We're just helping to build something together rather than
be a power couple.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, yeah, that's what it's about. Be a power couple. And it doesn't matter if you're not doing the same thing, like, for your life and your career. What actually matters at the end of the day is your joint success and how you feel about that. And so, like, if you're able to feel powerful in life and you're in a relationship, that has to be complementary. They have to be reflecting that back and forth. You don't get really one without the other. You know what I mean? We have powerful people who are single because they are comfortable with that, and that's what they've chosen for themselves. But I love you saying that you don't need anybody, because that's not a slam. I mean, you're right. Like, I don't need you. That's what we say in arguments. And that's so not, that's like, yeah, that's true. But that takes away from the beauty of truly being comfortable in your own skin and saying, look, I'm going to survive, which means I'm not going to put up with XYZ, right? Yeah, I love you. I don't need you. So I'm not going to allow you to treat me like this or treat my children like this or XYZ. Those things are really, really important. But that comes from like loving yourself. Right?
Yes, it took a long time. I definitely spent a while feeling like I needed somebody else to help me. I needed somebody else to guide me. I needed somebody else to watch out for me in the way of like, I need you to catch my flaws. And anytime that we've had that conversation of like, I don't need you, it's never been heated. It's always been like, we're having a really romantic moment and it's like, I don't need you. And I love being here by choice. Like, my life would not fall apart with that. I'd be sad. I'd be torn up if we, broke up or whatever. But like, I don't need you in the end, and I feel happier that way. I feel so much healthier too. Like, I don't rely on somebody else to take care of my needs. I don't rely on somebody else to do everything for me. We live very separate schedules, and as I got more serious with like the online stuff, I was like, I'm going to be living my life a lot more separate from you. Like, I might wake up at a different time. I might go to bed at a different time. Here's my schedule for the week. Like, I record on these days. I do streams on these days. I'm doing this stuff on this day. That's what I'm doing. We will find time in the middle, but this is still my life and I'm not going to schedule it around you. And it was just really important to be doing things separately together.
Yeah.
There's different attachment styles, right? There's different attachment styles in relationships. And I think it's really important to recognize because some people are really anxious attachment. And if you've been in really unhealthy relationships, unhealthy people can't understand and conceptualize healthy relationships and healthy boundaries. So some people will be like I know with me and my partner, sometimes we're like ships passing through the night, but we both feel stable in our relationship. But other people looking from the outside would be like, you haven't seen your partner in like a day or 2 days. Like, how are you like surviving? How are you living? And it's like, just because I haven't seen them doesn't mean that our relationship isn't stable or secure. It doesn't mean that they're looking for someone else or that that they don't love me anymore or any of those things. It's just like, we're both adults and we both feel stable and secure in our relationship. And that's our attachment style. But other people have very different attachment styles. And that's how this becomes really toxic really fast, is because two people with completely opposite love and attachment styles will find themselves together and they're both triggering each other in really unhealthy ways. And then they're like, oh, but we're meant to be together, but we're supposed to be together because like I feel so much love. And it's like, well, maybe you do, but in the beginning of a relationship, there's a very chemical reaction happening in your brain to make you feel a ton of things for this person. And so there's a lot of chemical things working against you. It's new, it's exciting, it's fun. But at the end of the day, you're just two people who do not match in a very specific way. That's probably going to be really difficult to overcome if you're not seeking like professional therapy or help to overcome your relationship issues. A lot of people don't want to do that, so they're not going to, and it becomes really toxic really fast. It can become really abusive, and then they're using the twin flame cover of like, no, like we fight a lot and we yell at each other, but like that it's because we're twin flames and we're just like burning so bright. And that opens these people up to a second layer of abuse. And I'm just going to name it, is that these people are feeling this way in their relationship. So they're coming out into the community and getting psychic readings, getting tarot readings, getting astrology chart readings to see if they're compatible. And it opens them up to a very vulnerable position because they're coming from a place of genuine concern. Like, am I supposed to be with this person? They're seeking that answer. And then they're going to sit down with someone who's going to take money and tell them God knows what. Not everyone is a good, reliable reader. And it opens them up to a very vulnerable position because as a reader, you have a lot of sway with your clients. Whether you recognize it or not, they're coming because they're seeking an answer. And what you say matters to them. They're going to remember it once they leave your session. So I think it does actually, I think twin flames put a really big risk of harm into our community that we need to address.
Well, I think readers don't think about the impact they have a lot. So I think there are some ethics that you should think about if you start reading for other people, because you need to remember that like you really can't say whatever without thinking that it's going to hit them in a certain way. And generally when people come and pay for readings, it's when something's wrong. Like some people do come, like you're gonna get clients where they come every once in a while just to like check in. They do like update readings. But a lot of people who get readings are doing it when they're in a really hard position and they need help. Like, a lot of people specifically seeking like twin flame love readings, they're seeking it because they want to be told something. And if they're not told that, it's really going to hurt them. But as a reader, you shouldn't just tell people what they want to hear, but at the same time, you don't want to crush them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very tricky thing for someone to master, to be able to say, well, there are some issues here, without being like aggressive and harsh. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really tricky thing to learn, and is something that, you know, if you're going into a reading for your twin flame, I would think about why you're going in for the reading. Are you getting it going in because you want a specific answer, or what? Like what's your motivation to do that?
Well, here's my specific thought, and I think that I would imagine everyone here would agree. I don't know that everybody online would agree, but it's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. If you have to go get a relationship reading, a twin flame reading, whatever, to see if you should be together, if you belong together, if you know, all this, like, do we stay together? If you have to ask, the answer is no. If you have to question it, if you have to go to somebody else to affirm your relationship, you shouldn't be together in the first place, because either you already know it's over, you already know there's issues, you already know it, and you're looking for somebody to prove you wrong. Like, you're not actually.
I disagree. I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I probably disagree for a different reason than Devin, but a lot of people who seek this service, they use the spiritual. There's a few reasons, there's a few barriers, but there's one very big cultural barrier in that there's a number of people who find they don't find that they can talk to these things with their friends or their family, and they can't afford or are unable to seek professional guidance like a therapist. Mm-hmm. And spiritual services are so much more easier to locate and to get. So if I'm a person who has a question about, like, I just started seeing this new person, I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm not going to book a brand new session with the therapist just to talk about my relationship issues. It might just be more accessible for me to find a tarot reader because I trust tarot, but maybe I don't read tarot for myself. I think that getting a reading is a lot more accessible for a lot of people. And so it helps them kind of navigate something that they would, because when someone sits down and talks to you in like live face-to-face tarot, let me tell you, it's not just me looking at those cards. There's conversations happening. We're doing a lot of talking, a lot of it can feel almost like peer-to-peer therapy, even though I'm not a therapist, and I would never say that I am a therapist, but it feels more personal than just looking at cards, So these people are coming because they want to have that conversation, and they might not have another outlet to do it.
See, but I'm not talking compatibility. Like, I'm not looking at, I'm seeing this new person, how does our dynamic look? Like, for an astrology reading, you can get the two charts together, whatever. Like, the compatibility thing is completely separate, and for newer stuff, that's fine. I'm talking, like, I've been with my boyfriend for a year, we're having trouble, do we belong together, should I stay kind of readings. Like, that's more the avenue that I'm looking at. Because compatibility, sure, go do a reading, I'm all for that. It's more like to validate whether or not you should leave or stay. That's where I'm like, the answer. You know that what you're looking for here.
So my caveat to this, though, because I think absolutely, and in the spirit of what you're saying, fuck yes. But I would say that I've had many a client over the years who was if I'll just use an example. So I had a woman who I saw for about 7 years on and off, who left her husband and met me, like came and saw me the day after she left her husband, and then ended up going through the divorce and then cycling back through, getting back with her husband and moving forward with things. And this has been after they had like an 18-year-old daughter, and like they'd been together for a long time. And what would come out of our sessions most, because there's just a lot of spiritual counseling. That's what's really what goes on when you do a tarot. It's just, and it doesn't even have to be woo-woo mystic. It's just, this is weighing my soul. Can I unburden myself, and can you give me advice? It's a lot of what we do. And so when I tell people like I'm a professional secret keeper, that's what I mean. Like I that's my job. I'm okay with that. But I had this woman who, that was kind of the cycle in about 7 years. And she would see me like every 6 months or so, just to kind of check in. And a lot of it was checking in with, when the beginning it was, is this a relationship that is something I should continue to put energy into when I got cold feet now? That's where that was like, okay, let's talk about that. there's the, so like, you know, but if she would have come in and she would have been like, oh, I feel like I need to leave, is this true? The answer is yes, go fucking just go, right? If your gut's telling you go do it. But there's also the value of actual counseling, of therapy, right? And so, and as we've all talked to, everybody knows, you know, no one here is anti-therapy or anti-counseling. But being able to go and just, like, in my experience with my partners, especially because there's the generational, you know, differences and things like that. There's been times where I'm like, I feel like I don't understand what's happening. I feel like I missed some sign and I'm oblivious and we're not communicating well. I need somebody to help explain to me what I missed in this interaction. And that takes balls or guts or whatever the hell it is that you want to, you know, whatever you got to bring you the energy to do it. But that's a scary thing. And I think in general, we have this like stigma in our civilization that's like, oh, it's not good to talk about your problems. Talk about your problems. So like in the spirit, you're saying, fuck yes. But I just want to say the caveat of that is go talk to a spiritual counselor if you're wondering what you can do to make your relationship better, if you're wondering what you can do to make, you know, communication easier, like those things. That's what we're here for, right? Like we can do that shit. Yes. But if it's is this person my soulmate? At least for me, every time it's going to be, or twin flame. For me, every time it's going to be no.
I agree.
No.
I think a lot of the times the twin flame thing is used to cope with an uncomfortable relationship or to cope with turmoil. I think it's an easy answer, and I think that it is, in a sense, an example of spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, because it's easy. Isn't it easier to blame your problems on not having your soulmate with you than it is to just own it and take it and do something with yourself? Isn't it easier to blame the feeling of loneliness and emptiness that you have on the fact that you don't have somebody sleeping next to you at night than it is with the fact that you just never got comfortable in your own skin?
Well, twin flame
like these are things that
like so different from like there's so many different like soulmate theories. Twin flames is only one of them, right? Like there's soul shards, there's soul trees, there's the twin flames, there's the red string theory. Like there's a ton of soul theories, and then somehow you fit reincarnation into all of it. And not everyone believes in reincarnation, but it also does fall into this because then you're reincarnating with souls. And there's a whole lot of things that like really go into, is it soulmates? Is it twin flames? Twin flames is one very specific soulmate theory, and not everyone ascribes to it. I don't think any of us here specifically do. And that's okay if you do. I think that there are such thing as personally, I think there's such a thing as soulmates, but not in the pop sense. So for me, it would be like, okay, if someone came to me and said, you know, this is my twin flame, since I don't ascribe the twin flame theory, I'd be like, oh, they're probably not, but that doesn't mean that they're not supposed to be in this cycle with you. And that's my opinion. But someone else could have a very different opinion where they don't believe in soulmates at all, or they believe in a different type of soulmate. So I think it gets to be very like tricky and gray ground, depending on who you talk to.
I think it gets down to what you get out of that relationship. So like in a soulmate situation, it isn't supposed to be that you're locking pieces of a puzzle together necessarily. At least for me, when I think of mate, I think of like creating something, you know, we're getting together to create something. And so whether that's physical life or magic or, you know, whatever, you know, so when I think of like finding my soulmate, I think of that partner in crime spiritually. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're like, I know people who subscribe to the, like everyone's people can be from the same kind of like cloth, and then they're just strands in a cloth, or they're, you know, the soul shard thing, like, and that's all fascinating to me. And I think that's brilliant. My personal take on things tends to be a lot more independent about like your journey, and this is about you and your souls, blah, 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 and what you're going through. And you're going to find people who are going to excite your energy in a way that other people do not. And our job is to find the people who excite us in that way so that we can do what we need to do in this life. And so we can have many soulmates. We can have over this lifetime, you can have 15 different soulmates or twin flames, whatever it is that if you want to think of that sexual, hot, passionate relationship kind of deal going on. But you also can have soulmates in the fact that like I have some of my best, most meaningful relationships are people who I've never slept with, and I'm gay, so like that's a weird thing. But I've never slept with them, and I was trying to be funny. Thank you everybody for laughing. But I've never slept with them, and we're more like intellectual writing people. Like it's more about, hey, and I need these people. Like if they're not around, or if I feel like there's something I am so upset and worried. And so like I get that need to have that, but I also like, it's what you were talking about earlier, Temperance, with there are people who are going to fulfill different things for you in your life. And I think it's unhealthy to like rely on one person for that. And when we get into the spirituality thing, it's really easy to pick and choose these terms to help clog up the works when it comes to this very thing of like, and it's not to say like one person's going to give you the D and the other person's going to give you, the spiritual stuff. You should have a nice blend of things. Absolutely. But at the same time, like, I'm polyamorous. I go through phases where, I've been with my boyfriends for 12 years, my partners for 12 years. There are times when I'm not feeling sexy, or I'm not feeling sexy with one of them, and I'm more like physically feeling it with the other one. And it's like over the years, we had to just kind of figure out like, hey, that's okay. Like, it's okay to just go through this and talk about it and be honest and genuine and say, this is what's going on. And I'm aware of it. So I can shift energy if it's important or whatever those things are. But I get something so special from both of them, both of my partners and the people I've dated over the years, that like, I can't imagine relying on one person for all of my spiritual needs in that way. Because I think spiritual needs is a really big term, and it can include sexual needs. It can include, mental things. But that like, do you feel like your soul is being fulfilled with the work that you do with your partner? And that's a really important thing to me. So like, if I have something in my life and I feel that, then I'm here for it 1000%. I am your ride or die bitch. Like that's me. But then the other side of it is that like, if I feel like you're using our relationship to fill a void in your life, I'm not okay with that. And I can't be with you. And that has been a relationship deal breaker, like a couple of times, and with great people who phenomenal, but it's like, I don't have time for this. Like, and it's not because you're a bad person.
That's a big thing in our society, is that people, it gets like, for some reason we think we have to fix people, like they're broken, and we can't fix people, and we can't be their parents. And those are two big traps. If someone's looking for a parent, they're not going to be a good partner. And if someone's looking for you to fix them, they're going to be a really bad partner as well. Like that's not your job. Should be to be your best versions and bring out your best versions in each other together. And everyone's going to have their downs, right? Like some people are going to have a bad day or get depressed and fall in. Maybe they're depressed for a few months. Okay. And maybe they don't want to have sex for a few months, and maybe they're on, antidepressants or whatever it is that people are going through. People go through things in life. That doesn't mean the love's lost, and that doesn't mean that they're broken. But if someone comes into this relationship like, oh, I have trust issues, and we have to fix them, that's something very different.
I will fix all your trust issues.
Thank you. I'm
gonna heal you. Twin flame.
I have trust issues. So that's a very different.
All fire signs do.
Yeah, well, but
it's like a fire sign thing.
Being self-aware of it and not being self-aware. There's so many aspects. But I don't want a partner that I have to fix, and I know my partner doesn't want a partner that he has to fix. We're both adults. We don't have time for that.
No, because you're building something. So like, if you have to fix the sink, you can't build a countertop. Like it's not going to happen. So,
yeah, you're not putting a house on top of a broken foundation.
Nope, not happening. It's not going to work. So I feel what you guys are saying so hard right now. And I think it's such a great discussion, because on Twitter, just like 2 or 3 days ago, I was seeing somebody who was pimping out their twin flame spiritual service. And it was like all about like helping you understand why you're like so drawn to this person. And it was all of this like I'm thinking like, as a spiritual counselor, as a writer, as these are all of the things that I just run screaming from, and this person was like, I do this, and it was just like, you're the Antichrist.
I think it's unethical to me, to be honest. I do. I think if someone preys on someone's insecurities like that, it's unethical.
Well, you're taking advantage of vulnerable people, and when it comes to things like my relationships, like if someone whose relationships are always tumultuous, whatever, you're probably dealing with someone who's dealt with some degree of trauma. Like, you're not a mental health professional. You're literally preying on someone's trauma, and you're probably giving them unhealthy answers. You're probably giving them what they want to hear, because there's a financial incentive for you to do that. I think that's really toxic, and you could be doing like real world damage.
So there's a way, as a reader, you have a responsibility. If someone sits down in front of you, and I have done it multiple times, if someone sits down in front of you and lays something out, and you recognize that it reaches the level where they need professional help versus what you provide them, you have a responsibility to tell them, hey, you know what, like there's like a lot of unresolved like childhood trauma or whatever. Maybe you should seek a therapist. Like, I'm still here for you to talk about these things, but I can't do all the work. Like, we do need a little bit of professional help, and you as the reader have to find a way to politely say that.
And we've had to come across this not just in like spiritual services, but just on servers, like in community spaces. I've had to probably 10 different times in 2021 alone be like, listen, this sounds like more than something that this server is going to be able to handle. We're just a community sphere. This sounds like something that I would, with all the love in the world, I would really, really encourage you to go seek some professional help, because this is something a little bit more serious than magic can solve, than a tarot reading can solve, than astrology can solve. Like, this is not something that I think is safe for the spiritual community to be handling for you. It, like, sometimes it's severe mental illness, sometimes it's a trauma thing, whatever it is. Like, we can't do this for you, and magic can't necessarily always be the answer for you in this sphere. So if you have the means, please seek out therapy, because some problems are too big. Sometimes you need a professional that is not a spiritual professional. Therapy can, of course, be very spiritual and can help you with your spiritual problems, but sometimes, like, a mental health expert is what you need, not, like, are they my twin flame?
Two things to add to this. So, first thing is that I got into the habit of having a local therapist who was open to people who were spiritual, and I had her cards in my wallet. So if I ran into a situation like that as a reader, I could very politely and in an awesome way be able to, like, you know what, I have this friend who is a therapist. She's way more equipped to help get you out of the situation than I am, or help you understand the situation than I am. This is what I can do, and this is what's going to take it, to the next level. When people come in for cleansings and like that big curse removals, that's exactly what I tell them to do. Part of this cleansing is going to be that you go and do at least 3 sessions with a counselor, just period,
Yes.
because of how deep this has affected you, or one of those things. The other thing is that I think that we are in a situation within like the occult sphere where there's so many of us. And I talk about on my show a lot that we have this habit of like escapism, where people just want to come to the occult so they can escape the reality of their shit life, or whatever. Whereas for me, I came to the occult looking for a way to get out of my shit life and to use the occult for that. Some people just go here because it's easy to choose your own name and to create a different identity, and we respect that. We command that people do that in some situations, but the flip side of it is that then you end up with this alternative life that you're living, and it's easier to. I have a family member who is not very mentally stable. She's had a lot of problems in her life. And this is something that comes up a lot, is just this toxic relationship that just is over and over and over again. But when that person found spirituality, then suddenly all the problems were there. It's just the reason for them had changed. And it was easy to talk about a parasite or a demon or whatever between the two of you and yada, 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 than it was just to be like, hey, this guy gets drunk and loses his temper. Right. Or, whatever. So we end up in this thing with like this twin flame shit, where we really aren't just spotting out like the warnings. It's just because you're spiritual doesn't mean like the rules of dating change at all. Like at all. If anything, because you're spiritual, the rules of dating, if they're going to change, they should get harder for you. Like your standards should rise up, because you're going to end up with people. We've all been in bad relationships. This is bringing me to the thing I wanted to ask you guys. We've all been in bad relationships. We've all probably have been maybe on both sides of those relationships, being the person who was in torment and also the person maybe tormenting as a response. Like I was saying in the part of the beginning of the show. What do you think are things that people who are like, say, you're in a relationship where you feel like this person's your twin flame, they're driving you crazy, you're so passionate about them, you can't get them out of your head, and you lose your common sense, you lose your better judgment in this situation. What do you like yes, we can sit there and say, oh, this person's lost their fucking mind and they're going crazy and they're causing all these problems for everybody else. But like, the reality is this person's hurting. They're fucked up. They've got things going on. Like what are those warning signs? Because I know for me, a big thing, like when I was going through my depression with my father's passing, was just stepping back and realizing like, oh, I've changed. The fact that he's dead now has changed me in a very big way because this relationship has shifted. And then I would look back on my relationships with like my romantic partners, same kind of deal. So like, what do you think? Like, you know, sometimes you don't know that you're losing your mind and you're going crazy and you've turned into an asshole, right? So like, if these things are happening, like, what are the warning signs that like you should know? Like, hey, I'm slipping into this twin flame bullshit in a way that's going to be bypassing. It's going to be toxic, when maybe you're not thinking about it from that perspective because you're just too busy feeling it.
My biggest
think-
thing. Oh, go ahead, Nike.
I was just gonna say, if you find yourself excusing their behavior a lot, like they have a public freak out, or they say a mean comment to somebody, or they just do something that hurts someone in some way. Maybe it's you, and this isn't necessarily like he pushed me down the stairs or he slapped me, but I made him angry. I'm talking like they say something mean to you or about you or to your friend or about your friend, and you find yourself having to say why it's okay. Usually, it's like, he's just had a really intense day, or like if it's about you specifically, because usually it's more of like the you and them thing. Like if you find yourself having to excuse this thing that other people are concerned over, because usually other people are bringing it to you, if you have to excuse away things that other people are concerned over more than just once every 6 months, even, like if it seems kind of constant, that's a big red flag for me. Like, well, he doesn't hold my hand, like this is for me, he doesn't hold my hand anymore, but he's not very touchy, or he doesn't want to celebrate my birthday. Well, he just wants to have like a deeper connection about things, and it's fine. I mean, I don't really care, I'm trying to be like the cool girlfriend. Like if you have to excuse all these things that are hurtful, that's an issue
For me.
But what about okay?
Oh no, go ahead.
Speak. No, speak, Temperance. Speak.
For me, I think it's I have to really check in and gauge where my panic reflex is with them. If I feel like if I don't respond to them, if they're going to get mad at me, because it's like in the beginning of a relationship, it's the contact is so constant. It's back and forth. If I miss a text, are they going to freak out at me? And then like always checking to see if they've called me, if they've talked to me, if whatever. And how panicked I get if I miss something, that's usually my biggest like red flag that I may be in a little like too deep. Now it's really hard to pull yourself out of that position too, because for me, I think it's a bit of a trauma response from some other shit. Is that like I feel like if I miss something that they're going to hate me or they're going to be angry at me or whatever. And so it's really important to me in the beginning of a relationship that my partner makes me feel comfortable to come to them like in my own time, versus putting a lot of pressure on me to always be available for them. If I feel like if I'm not available for them, that I'm gonna that I have anxiety attacks, that's a really big red flag because I'm really susceptible to it.
So this like underlines like for me when like a big red flag, which is that we use our like traumatic past, or we use conditioned responses from the past. And then we equate them with spiritual experiences. And then, so let's say like, oh, and like really like Temperance or Tempest, Temperance. Why do I have to keep doing that? Sorry. Temperance. I just got filled with my other friend. So let's say you're in there, you haven't talked to this guy in 15 minutes. He hasn't texted you and you're like, oh my God. And you start panicking. Is that you just being anxious because you haven't talked to him, or is that you have a psychic red flag and you know that he's blah 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 blah, and you know what I mean? So like that's what I hear a lot of, and as my spirit guy told me that he was, with his sister meeting his ex-girlfriend or whatever, like crazy shit, and it's like, no, you're just losing your grounding here. You're not in your centered place, and it's so easy to do that. Spiritual bypassing, it's so easy to do that when you're somebody who talks about psychic frequencies and you're tapping into the astrological blah blah blahs, and like I don't know how many times I've had somebody explain their partner's shitty behavior because of Mercury retrograde. Like, I'm like, I don't care. Nobody walks into like chases you into a grocery store to tell you how it is in front of the people that you do not know. Hell no. Like, I don't care if it was Mercury retrograde. So there's like those things where we excuse bad behavior. I know I have done this. Like that's what I was trying to get at with everybody was like in the past, my big thing was that I would find spiritual reasons or spiritual excuses to stick around because this was spiritual matter, right? We're talking about twin flames, and this is my soulmate, and this is somebody who blah blah blah. We have past lives together. That's my favorite one.
Yes,
We
I
have
love
past
that one.
lives together.
Well, I actually one of my favorites is that, and I've had it happen a few times. Is that they appear to me in my dreams, like they travel to me in the astral through my dreams, and we have this great connection. And I'm like, your partner is like a Catholic, your partner is Episcopalian, like your partner is like a normal person, like you're the spiritual person. Like I doubt they're astral traveling to you. There's something else going on here.
Also, your dreams
Okay.
typically reflect your subconscious. If you're thinking about a person constantly, then you're probably more likely to come up in your dreams. My final thoughts are, so if your relationship is only still a thing because of some spiritual reason, and if that reason wasn't there, like let's say you believe your partner's your twin flame, if someday like someone snapped their fingers and twin flames didn't exist, would you still be with them? Because if the answer is no, it's probably not right for you. Because if you're only with someone because you feel like you have to, that's not love, that's a kidnapping. Like you should not be with someone because it's what you're supposed to do or what you think like the divine is telling you to do. It should be because that's your actual true will and that's what you actually want out of your relationship.
My final thoughts are that the twin flame stuff gets really toxic, and I think that ultimately we need to be taking care of ourselves with that same kind of love that we're looking for from a twin flame. You might be on and off with this person for a long time, maybe your entire life. You will always be with you. There's no off of being with yourself. So I think if you want to be healthiest, not just for you, but any potential partner, for your friends, for your family, you have to come first ultimately. Like it might feel selfish, but you know, it's like when you're on a plane that's going down, they tell you, put your mask on before assisting others. How are you supposed to help somebody who's drowning if you're drowning yourself? Get yourself out of the water and then reach in and pull them up if you have to. But you need to be alive and well and healthy in order to be able to live your life the best way possible. And the twin flame stuff kind of makes people feel like that's bad to do and like you have to shove yourself to the side. And I think that's the opposite advice. You are number one. It's not bad to be number one. Look out for number one, and for me, number one is me.
My final thoughts are to stop limiting yourself in love. You can have so many different kinds of love: romantic love, platonic love, friendship, sexual, and those can all be different people. You know, you get to choose what works for you and what doesn't, and what kind of soulmate belief system that you ascribe to. So don't limit yourself. Just enjoy your life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. My final thoughts are, as a polyamorous person, that the concept of twin flames is bullshit. I think it's really important to find somebody or multiple people, whatever, who help you become the best person that you can be, not because they're pushing you to become the person they want you to be, but because they're allowing you the opportunities to go achieve your own dreams and your own ambitions in life. I also think it's really important that everyone takes a moment to appreciate the fact that what goes on in your head is not going on in somebody else's head. So how the intensity that you feel about a situation or about somebody is something that is created by your mind, by your body, by chemicals, by all kinds of things. And that isn't necessarily going to be duplicated in your partner all the time. That isn't going to necessarily be something that you're going to spark and feel. And just because maybe the spark isn't there, or you feel like the spark was really there at one point in time, none of that matters. What matters is that you're going and you're tending to the fire that exists now. And in your relationships, no matter what relationship that is, that comes from just good old common sense and communication. And there's nothing really spiritual about it, but it has deeply spiritual, impactful implications. You can go to Barnes & Noble and you can find most of my books. You can go to modernwitch.com and get all of my books. You can go to themysticdream.com. Currently, we're about to do a big brand change. I'm really excited about it. I also teach classes online. You can find out more about that through modernwitch.com. And podcasts, got a magazine out there, some old copies somewhere floating around for like $2,000. Not me, I sell them for $20. But somebody sell them on eBay for $2,000, so that's nifty. But yeah, so we're Modern Witches everywhere. I'm everywhere. Just come find me. And I'm at Mr. Devin Hunter on most things on social media.
Yay!
So if you want to support Occultism with a Side of Salt, we have Patreon. You get extended shows, pre-shows, video versions, extra shows, and all sorts of lovely things. You can find me under Georgina Rose or .darling DAAT on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, everywhere but Facebook.
And if you're a patron who pays $10 or more, you get a special shout out every episode. So thank you to Victoria, Temple Ruff, Rose, Ree, Nicole, Nico, Neon, Nauseated, Michelle, Melissa, Megan, Marshall. I love Marshall. M, Lisa Litchfield. Oh, I'm going to cut that. Lisa, Lee, Kat, Kay, Jessica, Dungareed Pagan, Doitsu, T, Witch of the Rising Stones, Janine, Jay, Evan, Barry, and as always, Amy Momster. We love you guys. If you want to find me, I'm Warrior Witch Nike everywhere, Warrior Witch on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I have my own Patreon with special content. I do Twitch now, and me and Georgina will be streaming together Mondays and Tuesdays, which is super fun. That's a good time. So follow me places. If I left something out, just search my name. You'll find me. I'm everywhere.
And I'm Temperance. You can find me at Wildwoman Witchcraft or Temperance Alden pretty much on every social media platform. At Tempura Apples on Twitch. My book Year of the Witch is available everywhere books are sold.
And this has been
Occultism with a
Side of Salt.
You can say it too.
Occultism with a side of salt.
Non-tangible thing.
Grows where you are. It exists where you are. An intentional journey to open up the pathways
To connect us to something bigger.
It helps everybody in the equation. Has been the magic of the people, and it's passed from person to person.
You have to follow through. You have to do the thing.
Like a happy, safe place. Is that your logic, or was that something you were told?
Focus on your craft and your practice.
Just ask me why. Why in general? Can you unteach yourself something that society has taught you?
Mystical experiences will always be different.
Your body is your temple. You've probably been doing certain things your whole life. You need nothing else other than what you're in right now.
This is Georgina.
This is Nike. And this is Temperance.
And welcome